There comes a time when you must stop standing at the doorway of love, waiting for someone to knock and carry you across the threshold. Love is not a rescue. Love is not a gift placed in your lap by another's hand. Love begins in the quiet room of your own soul, where you decide you are worthy before anyone else whispers it to you. When you learn to love yourself truly deeply without apology, you set a table where respect is the main course. You no longer hunger for crumbs of affection from anyone unwilling to serve the feast. Your spirit begins to shine, and that light attracts people who see you clearly, not as a shadow to control but as a soul to honor. Self-love changes how you walk in the world. It straightens your spine, steadies your voice, and teaches your eyes to look forward instead of down. It makes you unwilling to settle for less than kindness, less than honesty, less than truth. And in doing so, it gives others permission to rise to meet you or to step aside if they cannot. Relationships do not thrive on need alone. They thrive on two whole people standing side by side, not leaning on each other to stay upright, but walking together because the journey is richer when shared. When you love yourself, you do not chain someone to your loneliness. You invite them into your abundance. Loving yourself teaches others how to love you. It is not selfishness, it is instruction. It is the blueprint that says, "This is how I deserve to be treated." And when you honor that blueprint, the wrong people will fall away, but the right ones will recognize it as truth and love you more fiercely for it. So love yourself not as a substitute for another's love, but as the foundation for it. Because the way you cherish your own heart determines the kind of love you will allow, the kind of love you will receive, and the kind of love you will keep. There is a certain kind of hunger that lives in the hearts of so many. It is the hunger to be seen, to be chosen, to be held as if we are the answer to someone else's prayer. That hunger drives people into arms that bruise, into words that diminish, into promises that evaporate as quickly as smoke in the wind. But there is another way to live, another way to love, and it begins not with another's hand but with your own reflection. When you stand before yourself and say, "I am enough," you shift the very foundation of your relationships. For too long we have been taught that love is something to be earned, begged for, or waited on, as though someone else holds the key to our joy. But the truth is simpler and more profound. No one can love you in the way you need to be loved until you begin to practice that love yourself. Loving yourself changes the rhythm of your voice. It changes the tilt of your head and the firmness of your step. It changes what you will allow and what you will not. It changes the kind of people you invite into your circle, and it changes the way they treat you once they arrive. A person who loves themselves will not accept disrespect disguised as passion, nor silence dressed up as peace. They will not bow to the loudness of another when their own truth is whispering clearly in their chest. Imagine walking into a room where you already belong to yourself. Your worth is not up for debate, not hanging like a question mark in the air, not waiting for someone to stamp it with approval. That kind of presence is undeniable. It does not need to shout, it simply radiates. And that radiance draws others to you who recognize its power, and it also repels those who hope to exploit your doubt. When you love yourself, you begin to understand that loneliness is not the enemy. You learn to sit with your own company and discover that your presence is not lacking. Too often, people fill their lives with noise, with lovers who do not listen, with friends who do not care, with commitments that only exhaust. They are afraid of the silence. But silence is where the truth speaks, and the truth will always tell you that your own love is enough to sustain you while you wait for love that is worthy. Think of the relationships you have seen crumble, not because there was no affection, but because there was no foundation. One person leaned so heavily on the other that both fell to the ground. That is what happens when you do not love yourself first. You ask another to hold up the weight of your insecurities, to carry your unhealed wounds, to complete your unfinished story. But no human being can do that work for you. They may try, and in their trying they may grow weary and resentful, or they may take advantage, holding your fragility as leverage to control you. But when you stand whole in yourself, you meet others as equals, not as saviors or captors. Self-love is not arrogance, though some will accuse you of it. It is not vanity, though some will misunderstand it. It is clarity. It is the deep knowledge that you are not a half waiting for another half, but a whole human being who can share love without losing yourself in the process. Loving yourself allows you to give without fear of emptiness, and to receive without suspicion of unworthiness. Look at the faces of those who have found this truth. They glow differently. They laugh without checking who is watching. They speak with authority, not to command others but to affirm themselves. They do not stay where they are not valued. They do not chase affection that runs away. They do not linger at doors that will not open. They understand that rejection is not a verdict on their worth but a redirection toward better. To love yourself is to understand that you are responsible for the care of your own soul. You cannot hand that responsibility to another and expect them to succeed. Lovers may come and go, friends may drift away, family may not always understand. But you are with yourself every single day, every single moment. If you cannot learn to embrace that companionship, every relationship you enter will be burdened by an emptiness you expect someone else to fill. And how does this self-love change relationships? It transforms them into something healthier, something freer, something truer. When you love yourself, you do not tolerate abuse disguised as passion. You do not accept indifference disguised as strength. You do not beg for love like a starving child at the table of someone else's feast. Instead, you walk with dignity, carrying your own feast within you, and you say to the world, "If you cannot honor me, I will not starve for you. I will eat at my own table and be satisfied." When you love yourself, you love others more cleanly. You do not cling to them in fear of being abandoned. You do not chain them in fear of being forgotten. You allow them to breathe, to grow, to change, because their leaving or their staying does not determine your survival. You can love them for who they are, not for what you hope they will fix in you. And when they love you back, it is not out of pity or obligation, but out of genuine respect for the strength you already hold. So many relationships crumble under the weight of unspoken expectations. One person believes the other should heal their wounds, should erase their doubts, should make them feel beautiful, worthy, whole. But no relationship can survive that endless demand. It is like pouring water into a cup with no bottom. No matter how much you pour, it never fills. But when you love yourself, your cup already runs over. And the love you share with others becomes an exchange of fullness, not an exchange of lack. Loving yourself also means setting boundaries. Boundaries are not walls meant to shut people out. They are doors that you control, doors that open for those who come with respect and close for those who bring harm. Without self-love, you may leave your doors wide open, inviting in anyone who knocks, no matter their intention. And soon your house is crowded with voices that drown your own, with footsteps that trample your peace. But with self-love, you learn to guard your doors, to welcome only those who come bearing love that nourishes instead of love that depletes. This shift does not only change romantic relationships, it changes friendships, family ties, even professional connections. When you love yourself, you no longer play small to make others comfortable. You do not diminish your accomplishments to soothe their insecurity. You do not say yes when your spirit is crying no. You begin to speak with honesty, and that honesty may unsettle some, but it will also draw to you those who value truth. Self-love teaches patience. You no longer rush into relationships out of desperation, trying to fill a void with the first warm body that offers attention. You can wait. You can say, "I would rather stand alone in dignity than kneel in desperation." And in that waiting, you build strength, you build clarity, you build the ability to recognize the difference between love that liberates and love that binds. And yet, let us not pretend that loving yourself is always easy. It is a practice, not a destination. There will be days when the old voices rise up, whispering that you are not enough, that you are unworthy, that you are too broken to be loved. On those days, self-love is not a loud proclamation, but a quiet insistence. I will not betray myself. I will not abandon myself. I will not speak against my own spirit. On those days, you may have to remind yourself with small rituals, writing down your worth, looking into the mirror and naming what you see, choosing rest when the world demands exhaustion. Loving yourself is a discipline, and like any discipline, it grows stronger with practice. But here is the gift: once you commit to it, once you taste the freedom of it, you cannot go back. Once you know what it feels like to sit in your own company and feel at peace, you cannot return to relationships built only on fear of solitude. Once you know what it feels like to respect yourself deeply, you cannot accept disrespect disguised as love. Once you know what it feels like to be whole, you cannot pretend to be half. So yes, loving yourself changes relationships. It changes who you choose. It changes what you tolerate. It changes how you are treated. It changes how you love others. It changes everything. Because when you carry love within you, you no longer chase it outside of you. You simply live it. And in living it, you invite others to rise and meet you there. There is a certain miracle that happens when you stop asking the world for permission to exist. You no longer wait for someone to say you are beautiful before you believe it. You no longer wait for someone to say you are worthy before you act like it. You no longer wait for someone to say you are lovable before you love yourself. That miracle is the beginning of a different kind of relationship with everything and everyone around you. When you love yourself, you speak differently. Not louder, not harsher, but clearer. The words no longer stumble out of your mouth searching for approval. They roll out steady, grounded in truth. You do not need to argue for your worth. You do not need to beg for someone to see you. You already see yourself. That kind of voice cannot be ignored. It carries into every corner of your life, shaping how others respond, shaping how they hold you, shaping how they dare not mishandle what you hold sacred. Think about how love changes when you do not fear being alone. If someone walks away, you do not collapse into dust. You may hurt, yes, because you are human, but you will not be destroyed. Because your worth is not built on their staying. Your worth does not dissolve in their absence. You were whole before they arrived, and you remain whole after they leave. That knowledge gives you freedom, and that freedom makes love sweeter. You can love them with open hands instead of clenching fists. You can celebrate their presence without fearing their absence. That is the kind of love that grows, not the kind that suffocates. To love yourself is to recognize that your body is not an apology, your voice is not a disturbance, your needs are not a burden. You no longer apologize for taking up space, for having desires, for dreaming bigger than someone else thinks you should. You begin to walk differently. You fill the room differently. People may not understand what has changed, but they feel it. They feel the weight of your presence, the certainty of your step, the dignity in your silence. And what happens when you move through life like that? You begin to attract people who are drawn to your light, not your lack. People who respect your boundaries because they see how fiercely you respect them yourself. People who celebrate your growth instead of shrinking from it. People who know they cannot manipulate you with fear, because fear no longer rules your decisions. That is the transformation self-love brings. It cleanses your relationships, clears the weeds, leaves room for flowers to bloom. Some will not like it. Some will accuse you of being too proud, too distant, too strong. But remember this, those who are threatened by your self-love are often those who benefited from your self-doubt. When you no longer bend to fit their small vision of you, when you no longer give them the power to define your worth, they will resist. Let them resist. Let them walk away if they must. Do not chase what diminishes you. Do not mourn the loss of chains. Self-love also softens you, not just strengthens you. It softens you because you no longer walk around with unhealed wounds demanding someone else's bandages. You take responsibility for your healing. You tend to your own pain. You soothe your own fears. And in doing so, you free others from carrying a weight that was never theirs to carry. That freedom allows love to be gentler, more generous, more joyful. You do not love out of need, you love out of choice. You do not love out of desperation, you love out of abundance. Imagine a relationship where two people both love themselves. They do not try to complete each other, they complement each other. They do not lean on each other until both are broken. They stand beside each other steady and whole. They do not demand perfection, they honor humanity. They do not fear separation, they celebrate connection. That is the kind of relationship self-love makes possible, because you cannot give what you do not have. If you do not know how to honor yourself, how will you ever know how to honor someone else? Think of the times you allowed yourself to be treated less than you deserved. Was it not because you doubted your own worth? Was it not because you thought, this is the best I can do? When you love yourself, you will never think that again. You will know even in your loneliest moments that you are deserving of love that uplifts, love that respects, love that builds. And if such love is not present, you will not settle for less. Loving yourself means you do not chase after those who cannot see you. You do not knock on doors that refuse to open. You do not beg for scraps at the table of someone who feasts on your devotion but starves you of theirs. You do not diminish your brilliance so someone else's insecurity can shine brighter. You do not silence your voice to make someone else's comfort complete. You live fully, unapologetically, joyfully, because you know that your existence is already proof enough of your worth. This kind of love changes not just your intimate relationships, but the way you relate to the entire world. You stop competing with others because you no longer measure yourself by their standard. You stop envying what others have because you recognize your own blessings. You stop shrinking in the presence of power because you understand your own power is unshakable. You move through life with a quiet authority that does not demand attention but commands respect. Even conflict changes. When you love yourself, you do not fight to win, you fight to be heard, to be understood, to honor your truth. You do not fear disagreement because disagreement does not diminish your worth. You do not fear rejection because rejection does not erase your dignity. You know that your value is not dependent on anyone's acceptance, so you can face conflict without losing yourself in it. And here is the greatest gift: when you love yourself, you inspire others to do the same. People see your example and think, if they can honor themselves like that, perhaps I can too. Your love for yourself becomes a light that guides others out of the darkness of self-doubt. Your respect for yourself becomes a mirror that shows others their own possibility. Loving yourself is not just a personal act, it is a revolutionary act. It shifts not only your relationships but the culture of love itself. So many are walking through life searching for love as if it is a treasure hidden in someone else's chest. They exhaust themselves searching, begging, compromising, losing pieces of themselves along the way. But love was never hidden out there. It was waiting within you all along, waiting for you to uncover it, nurture it, trust it. And once you do, you will never again search for it in desperation. You will carry it with you into every relationship, every connection, every encounter. And the world will meet you differently because of it. So if you remember nothing else, remember this. You are not waiting for love, you are not begging for love, you are not chasing love. You are love. And when you carry that truth inside you, every relationship you touch will be transformed. You will no longer lose yourself in someone else's shadow. You will no longer trade your peace for their approval. You will no longer shrink to fit into a space too small for your spirit. Loving yourself is not the end of love, it is the beginning. It is the foundation upon which every healthy connection is built. When you honor your own heart, you teach the world how to honor it too. When you embrace your own worth, you make it impossible for anyone to convince you that you are less. And when you choose to stand in your fullness, you invite only those who can rise and stand beside you. Carry yourself with that truth. Live with that dignity. Walk with that love. Because the greatest relationship you will ever have begins not with someone else's hand in yours, but with your own heart beating steady, strong and certain. I am enough, I am worthy, I am love,